Woo, perfect. So first of all, I want to just let you know that at any time, if you have any questions or input that you want to share about anything that I'm sharing with you, please just go ahead and share that along the way. Honestly, I just first really honestly want to say thank you for letting me look at your chart. It's such a honor to get to have that connection with your soul and to be able to learn a lot more of our galactic history by getting to look into many of the things that your chart revealed. So there's so many layers to what our star placements and our kind of our geometric connection with the universe is through our very birth. And so what I did was I really tapped into your soul and asked what was the most important for you to know at this point as far as your soul's journey. And let me tell you, it just kind of opened up all the records. So it was a really fun journey because it goes back pretty far. And so I'm just going to go ahead and start with kind of your inception into creation, if you will, and go from there.
Okay.
So one of the main things that I saw primarily within your chart was that you have chosen to not be in a physical form for the majority of your time that you have been incarnated, if you will, from the God source field. With that, just looking at what your soul was showing me, I would say that this lifetime felt very kind of maybe bizarre to you, very different, like you were an outcast, hard to understand humanity, hard to know how to interrelate with people, because what I see within your chart is that there would have been a lot of innocence in your childhood growing up and trusting in other people because that would have just been your nature. But it didn't match with, it was kind of like, whoa, what is it? Why do people hit? Why do people say mean things here? Why isn't anybody else kind of operating more from the heart like I am? So what I saw in there was just that earlier in life would have been quite a journey for you. This is also significant within your astrological chart that you have a significant amount of squares in your chart, which means that you've had to deal with a lot of backlash, a lot of resistance in this lifetime. If anything, this is what your soul was showing me. It's not only coming from what your soul and your heart was really wanting to heal here on the planet, but it's also coming from that not everyone in the universe wants you to do the healing that you've come here to do in this lifetime. So that would create kind of resistance in your life, roadblocks in your life that would try to heal you from being on the path that you came here to be. But that within the amount of guides and guardians that you have in this lifetime, it would have been impossible for any negative beings, if you will, to keep you from doing what you came here to do. So
I feel that.
So your main connections within your chart, I like to start with that. Your main connections within your chart are the Lyra constellation. It's also Orion. And primarily your most significant lifetimes we're going to look at are in the Sirius star system. These are the ones that have the most absolute connection with and influence with, specifically in physical treatment. So with that, your original inception into creation, if you will, happened from the galactic center. You do also have a lot of connection with the galactic center, but you originated as a spark of light, and sound tone is an initial creation from the galactic center. your original soul color was golden. So what you were showing me is that you came from the golden ray band and you incarnated the ninth dimensional frequency. I'm actually going to. So when you originated at that ninth dimensional frequency, I asked what your soul origin form was, and you came as ancient dragon. So as an ancient dragon, it was not in a physical body, it was not in a physical form. I'm actually going to mute your thing, reverberating a little bit, and then just anytime that. Perfect, just so you can get the recording pretty clear. So when you first originated, your original soul blueprint was one of the ancient dragon lineages. Now, I know you have a pretty good understanding of the ancient dragon lineages and how they are really, they hold many, many, many different forms within the universe. They're not just the dragons that we would see in mythology and folklore, that they hold many forms and are massive, beautiful creator beings within the universe. And so your form was basically a golden ray, like a golden ancient dragon. And as you came in, you were not in physical form. You actually chose to be incarnated into this reality to help hold the Christos mission. So you were working primarily with specific races, beings, and more importantly, with upholding the integrity, the morals and integrity of the universe, if you will. But you primarily came in and started holding what you were showing was grid lines within the Canis Major and Canis Minor constellation systems within the universe. So you were not just all over the place in the universe. What you were saying is that the conscious purpose at that time was to hold the Christos mission through really holding the ley lines and the infrastructure of the universe. And so as you did that, you were working with many, many other ancient dragons, and you're showing it as almost like flying all together through the universe. And as you moved through, you were holding the integrity of the sound tones, the frequencies, and the infrastructure. So seeing that the cosmic body has a sacred geometry to it and sacred sound tones to it, you were really working with that specific constellation area, Canis Minor and Canis Major area, where you were working to just hold the integrity of that area and just be with those beings there. So you're going to see how this is going to be significant later, because in Canis Major is where the Sirius star systems are. So this is really kind of your area that you chose to primarily be connected to. So as you were working with the other dragons in this lineage, you were showing that you actually incarnated like 96 billion years ago. So a really long time ago. But what is kind of neat to know is that the universe, according to, say, the 15-dimensional time matrix model, is 950 billion years old. And it wasn't until 250 billion years ago that there was starting to be digressive genetics starting to happen within the races. So the seeded creations that were coming in were starting to expand to such a level where there was miasma, so digression in the races. So aggression, wars, technology starting to kind of get out of control. And you still didn't come in quite when that happened. You actually came in probably about 150 billion years after that digression really started. So there was already a lot of distortion happening within the universe when you chose to come in. And you came in through the gold ray band, if you will, as a golden dragon into the Canis area. Now, when I went a little deeper into looking at that gold lineage, this is really affiliated with the founding races, if you will. And the gold lineage would have been connected more with the Seraphi, the Seraphim lineage, also avian beings, reptilian beings, dinoid beings, and insectoid beings. So these are kind of those seed races in there. And that kind of really tied in with how you came in primarily as an ancient dragon. So you were holding that lineage of care for those specific seeded races within there. Now, from there, you chose to incarnate into the Sirius system. So within the Sirius star system, that you primarily remained within a ninth dimensional body for a bit. So you didn't really step yourself down, but you had about 6 incarnation cycles in that, and you were not always in the same form. So when you decided to step down a little bit more into a physical form, you birthed into, or you were a female in that lifetime, and it was one of the Sirian Lyran hybrids. So if you will, the Lyran races did migrate over to the Sirius star system, and this would have been before you actually incarnated into the universe, but that when you incarnated in there, that you were primarily there to help the Lyran Sirian beings in there. That's, again, your huge connections within your chart is with the Lyra system, but that you didn't actually spend time in Lyra specifically. You were working with the bloodlines of the Lyran races and the bloodlines that were intermingled with the Lyran Sirian races, and specifically those that were engendered and entrusted to uphold divine law within the universe. So when I say it that way, we can start to think of the digressive races, that some of the draconian races, some of the beings that decided to start to do things on their own. They wanted more territory. They were getting technologically advanced. They were starting to manipulate the sacred sciences. So most of the manipulation within the sacred sciences was manipulation of crystalline forms. So most weapons, most technology was at the core powered by crystals. So many crystals were starting to be used for purposes the crystalline kingdom didn't want to participate with, but now they were being involved with digressive energy as well. So you can see how all the dimensions were getting distorted on every level. So as you came in, you initially were just holding sacred structure in the universe, but in that area you got more involved as you watched what was happening with the races there, and then you chose to actually start incarnating into physical form. Now, truly, the only real physical forms that you have taken in the universe before your actual lifetime as Robin has been in the Sirius star system. You were in a female body in this particular life that I really want to share with you. And in this body, you showed yourself, you had no hair. So it was one of the Lyran Sirians with no hair, but you had a very beautiful bluish tone to your skin color. And it was just, you were a magnificent, beautiful being in that lifetime. You held so much compassion within that life. You worked in many, many capacities, primarily with the supergalactic, I got to find the spot right here, but with the supergalactic federation, over and over through multiple incarnations. When I looked at what groups you were affiliated with, over and over it came up as the Supergalactic Federation. So this is really, it wasn't about primarily working with races. It wasn't about just specific areas. It was really about the integrity of the whole body, again, of the cosmos. And when you were in the Sirius star system, you worked in multiple capacities with many, many races. So you did do a lot of traveling to other star systems. And not to be super confusing, but there was some timeline kind of jumping in there, because you were also in a future timeline and yet at a past timeline connected with the fall of Tara in the Pleiades system, when all of that kind of battle dropped the second harmonic universe into the first harmonic universe of this earth that we are in now. You were absolutely connected with that, but also protecting bloodlines. If I could kind of put a tagline in there, that one of the main purposes you had was protecting bloodlines of particular races, because it's within the bloodlines that you were utilizing your restructuring of the cosmic mother skills. So in bloodlines, if we can restore our bloodlines back into healthy, vital, reconnect our 12-strand DNA, even our 24 or 36 or 48-strand DNA, then we reconnect to the full body of the universe. And so you were really working with digressive genes and lines and races in order to help with the creations of new bloodlines, or placing within bloodlines genetics that were going to help restore races. So this was one of the things that you were doing. You could have seen yourself almost as a creator or a birther of new lineages or lines within that place, but also you were very much involved with the councils through the intergalactic federation that you were involved. You worked with many other councils in other places. And most of these had to do with your integrity of upholding the sacred sciences of the universe. That was a big thing that came in. And when you showed sacred sciences, that you have an innate ability at that level, and it's available to you in this lifetime, the more you just kind of let it flow through you, an innate ability of feeling, hearing, knowing the sound tones, the vibrations. And that's really what the sacred sciences are, is that the true molecules of the universe really kind of at a core level are light and sound. And so you had a mastery level of knowing how to work with those and how to embed things within genetics that would awaken at certain times in other people. So I'm going to tie this in a little later, and how you would actually kind of from there, in those Sirian incarnations, you actually did travel. Again, this is going to sound like future timelines, and your soul was like, don't try to figure it all out. Just tell it to her the way it is. She'll get it. But from that time, the fall of Tara hadn't actually happened, but yet you were already working with races on Earth to kind of keep an eye on them and to come. So you were actually coming to the solar system. You could lower your vibration to a degree. You didn't always have to travel in a physical form. You actually still had ability to move, almost light body travel, if you will. But you would come and check on specific races. So in history here on Earth, you would have indigenous tribe peoples and things like that who would have known you as what they felt was a creator god or goddess that was coming to, that you would kind of walk through these portals, and you would guide, you would teach, you would be here for the people of the land, and you had compassion and love in your heart because they were your seeded children, and you were just checking on them, kind of like you would check on your garden. You would see how they were doing, if they're okay. But again, part of that was also, making sure the morals and the values of people were at an integrity level, because you were saying that that's really what upholds the light and the vibration of Christos consciousness, is how people uphold their thoughts, their morals, and who they are is more important than people actually realize because it's holding the integrity of the structure. When people start to go towards anger, pillaging, and all of that, that's where it starts to digress the genes within the body. And then that, when people then make children with that energy of digressive energy, then that gets seeded into the next generation. And that's how distortion happens. And then it lowers people to the point that they don't have a connection anymore. So your teachings that you shared were very important to you because you were trying to impart to these children, if you will, these indigenous tribes and people on the planet, how important it was to not get angry or not want to hurt or kill your neighbor if they took your they took your sheep or something like that. So these are the kind of ways, but you more importantly kind of dealt with temples and things like that. So your message got passed on more through what you would call maybe the priests, or I don't want to imply too much a hierarchy, but there were definitely beings that maintained their spiritual hygiene a little bit better so you could communicate with them easier, and then they would take the message to the rest of the people. But all the people were very specifically aware of you. Now, with that, as you spent time in Sirius, you did have some incarnations into the Andromeda system after Sirius, after those incarnations there. So I will tell you, one of the things to kind of also tap into within the Sirius star system, you did have connection with the Anu family. You had connection with the Anu Sirians, and with that you were involved with those races because your genetics were part of their bloodline, and then they were the races that started to eventually digress some of your bloodline that you were mothering through creation. And part of your involvement with them did allow you to get sucked in a little bit into future lifetimes where you wanted to protect them. So there was a couple lifetimes where you actually let yourself kind of bend the rules a little bit to protect your people, your bloodlines, because you believed in them. You were like, no, they'll get it right this time. They'll do it this time. I swear, it's like, we'll fix it kind of energy. And within that, that there was about 2 lifetime cycles where you allowed yourself to bend the rules a little bit. And I believe this is where many of your squares came from in your chart. So some of the resistance, some of the karmic cleanup, if anything, that you've come to do. Now, from those incarnations, you chose to kind of go into sabbatical, but not really. There was almost kind of like, I need to recoup my energy and really see what's going on within the universe, because there was a snap open moment for you where you said, I can't get sucked into this drama. You felt yourself getting sucked into the family feuds, if you will, and that you were like, no, I can't do that. So you, at the end of one of those cycles, through many of the guardian races that you were working with. So again, you were working a lot with the Lyran Sirians primarily, but you had heavy connections with beings from Hydra, which are also almost kind of a blend of dragon lineages that have imparted there, but they do take on more physical form there. You worked again with a lot of the beings from Orion. You were working specifically with the higher councils that were there. And so as you had these connections with other races, what happened is your soul kind of got taken in and protected and pulled up into the Andromedan constellation. Now, in the Andromedan constellation, this was really fun. You went into 8th dimensional frequency here. You were not in a physical form. You stepped out of physical form. Remember, you were a ethereal, if you will, dragon for billions of years. So being in a physical form for a little bit wasn't enough to kind of suck you into getting trapped in physicality. You've always kept a connection and a very high vibration and moving up in and out of physicality, even at that level. So after you started to really feel like everything was spiraling to a degree where it was almost out of your control, like I can't fix it being in it, I need to move out. You went into Andromeda, and this was again 8th dimensional frequency. You were in a higher etheric form, and your form was purple. You were again still working with the Intergalactic Super Federation, and you went back into working with the infrastructure of the universe, the maintaining the infrastructure of the universe. So this time it was different though. You were working at a level where you were what you would call kind of a higher guide, almost like an angelic, but you were not an angelic in that form. You were working as an ethereal being, because I asked if you were an archangel, angel at that time, and it was like, no, I'm an ethereal being. I am just light, but you had absolute capability and consciousness, obviously at that level, where you were guiding what you might call archangels kind of level and angelics. You were working in harmony with them. They said that as an ethereal being, you were working more with the structure of the universe, where they say angelics and archangels tend to work more with beings, individuals, groups, maintaining things kind of on the boots on the ground sort of thing. So you were like, no, I worked with them, but I was not doing that. I was kind of going back into feeling. And this lifetime specifically, the reason why you did this was to start to work with the morphogenetic patterns. So morphogenetic patterns was working with the sound tones, frequencies, and the geometry of the universe, where you were maintaining that. You were very specifically using sound tones, and how you showed it was that at that time, because of the digression, the structure of the universe, they said, to kind of describe it better, was that there's dimensions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, but in between many of them, in order for existence to happen between each of them, there's like these bands in between them. So these kind of structure bands in between that maintain the integrity. So each dimension has their own structure. So you were really working with refortifying the bands so that they weren't collapsing and going out of the ability to hold themselves, and therefore not letting the higher vibrations kind of collapse into the lower vibrations. So as you showed that at this time, very specifically why you went there and did that is because you were already aware of some major Stargate problems within the universe. You were really aware that, oh my goodness gracious, like if some of these digressive races start to vie for territory in some of these other areas and take over these Stargates, this is going to absolutely damage the integrity of the structure of the universe. And the best way to kind of say that too is just imagine our physical body, and if you have kind of some some wound going on over here, but it gets systemic and it gets into the bloodstream, then all of a sudden, now it's just not a problem on the arm anymore. It can really damage the health and vitality. That's how you were kind of showing it to me. So at that time, this was getting along the time where the races on Earth were starting to get inflicted with some of this digression, because there was interbreeding in races. So the seeded races, you know, they were living life on planets. And for a being that lives billions of years, you know, you come back in 100,000 years, you're like, wow, what's been going on here? What's happening? Who you guys have been mating with? And it's a lot of their cross mating that started to create digression in these races. And because of that, there was this, what you were showing is there was a very specific time in history. I just want to talk about the kind of the fall of Tara. These seeded races were becoming digressive, and if they made their way back up into the higher dimensional frequencies, they could kind of bring those digressive genes into the gene pool of, say, the second harmonic universe or some of the higher races, and then infect that next aspect of the dimensional band frequency. And so there was a huge battle that was happening. You were not specifically involved with the battle. You were very much etheric, holding the violet color, the purple ray. So I'm going to tie this in with some of the beings that you were working with, because I really believe you were working with a lot of ascended masters, archangels, and different things like that. But when that happened, this battle had, if you can think of these, we say digressive races, but they were incredible beings, you know, they just didn't have good intentions with what they were doing. They were just trying to take over places. They wanted things, and they had really brilliant minds. So they had been using crystalline power and things and technology that could blow up planets, implode things. I mean, the technology and the weaponry was beyond anything we could think of in this lifetime. And the battle got to such where a planetary body within the Pleiades, so if I could just tell you that within Andromeda, you were working there, but you also kind of right before this fall of Tyra, you made your way to the Pleiades and into that constellation where this huge battle was taken, because you started to work with the planetary bodies at that time. So those planetary consciousnesses, and you saw within that time when this battle was happening, one of the planets exploded, if you will. And as it exploded, it kind of, you're showing it kind of inverted in, and then all of it just started getting sucked in. And what that sucking in did is it sucked all of its parts in and dropped it into the second harmonic universe, so the fall, if you will. Now, here's where you specifically come in with this energy. I asked what your soul energy was with some of this that happened. When the fall of that Tara Earth, if you will, happened, souls got fragmented all over the place, like all over the place. And through the weaponry and technology that destroyed them, their souls were basically irreparable, and many of them got sucked into that hole, and into the fall creation. Now you could think of all those parts kind of like fell into what we would think of as our solar system now, but it didn't just immediately pop out as our solar system. It took millennia for the planets to start to vibrate and start to try to rehabilitate. So we've had lost souls here for so long. Your initial choice to really get involved with this harmonic universe and Earth was to heal the karma of sudden death. when I asked that. So your energy was about healing Earth, healing the energy of sudden death. So souls whose lives have been suddenly just taken from them. You were also healing a lot of Nibiruan energy is what came up in there, which is a planet that kind of got sucked away from the body. It was one of the fragments that fell, but because it fell out of orbit bigger than all the other planets, it kind of got sucked away. And so it kind of got lost from the body too. So there was energy that you were working with to heal that energy. But that when you decided to come to Earth, you made a huge choice at that time. That from that 8th dimensional frequency, as you watched what happened to Tara and all of those souls, you chose to actually drop your frequency and vibration. And I want that you were very specific in saying it's not dropping, it's kind of just coming from underneath and holding this way, because it was, if we were to look at it, we would think of more like 2nd dimension, but really what you did is you came in as the Earth's chakra, the Earth star chakra, so to speak. And you came in, and you again came in as what we would look at as dragon lineages, but more now as an elemental. But you told me it's not elemental, but if you tell it to her, she'll get it. That you came in as this dragon kind of lineage that has been moving across the entire body. I asked where on Earth, and you said all of it, all the Earth. That you are working with many other kind of planetary dragons, if you will. And again, I say dragons, it's more like a luminary and an energy that you are just nurturing, holding, smoothing the lines, holding the ley lines, working with the Earth, working with the minerals, working with the crystalline bodies of the Earth. And that you came here and you were doing that for about 22 million years. That you just came to nurture and hold the Earth and breathe life kind of back into it. So you've had many incarnations, if you will, on Earth, but only one as you in this lifetime as Robin. All the others was you kind of coming in and out because you were holding more of a planetary consciousness for all of those lifetimes. Now, this is where the timelines kind of shift a little bit in there, because in some ways, your Sirian Lyran aspect from your Sirian lifetimes knew this was going to happen. So you had preset things. So there's kind of a merging of energy of all of this happening. So as you held dragon lines is what you were showing. So energetic lines, ley lines, key lines, stargate lines on the planet, the meridians of the planet, the axitonial lines of the planet. You were working to restore the planet. You were still connected at that time to the intergalactic super federation, but kind of in a different capacity. Primarily, again, just working with Earth karma. And your primary job that you chose in that time was to find souls. That was your whole thing. You were holding the body of Earth because the Earth body is a part of a larger body. So you were just starting to just restore this DNA, if you will, this sudden death energy. So you were taking it all in, and you felt, I can just imagine it was just a tremendous amount of emotion and pain and healing, that you were moving and moving and moving through these lines to be able to begin to heal. There was connection to a consciousness level of the other planetary bodies. So think of our solar system, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Uranus, and Saturn, and all of those. kind of just trying to create interconnected communication. But at this time, there was eventually within the timeline, the digressive bloodlines in children that started to create a lot of the distortion on the planet. What we would look at is kind of what we're looking at again today. So there was a moment where you chose to come in as a human body. Oh, there was just a lot of emotion around it too. And as you chose to come in as a human body, again, that would have been kind of the energy of not having really taken on a form at this density and this level before. And so your morals, your integrity, your understanding of, well, let's just be in harmony, let's just be in love, was just not something that other people in this life understood. But you came in on another level to help now, from instead of doing all the work that you were doing, if I could kind of look at it from inside the earth, you worked with the earth star chakra. So you were working with the portals, the stargates, the ley lines. You were helping those that were holding the Amenti stargates on the planet. You weren't specifically working with them, but in a way you were, because you were helping maintain the planetary structure. And then eventually you chose this lifetime to actually, now I'm going to come onto the surface. And so what I see within your chart and within your planetary alignments is that you chose to now just start running a lot of the energy through a physical body and a physical form. It was still primarily the karma of healing souls who had gone through sudden death and major trauma, and healing the victim-victimizer programming on the planet, and allowing your body to, you were showing, be on different places of the earth's surface, so that every time your body is in a place of the earth's surface, it's like you breathe those souls back home. You breathe those souls back home. They have to move through you, but you don't want to hang on to them. So this shows that you have the ability to tap into souls that have transition paths. So the afterlife. People who are not in a physical body. And we're talking about a timeline since the inception of Earth. So you can tap into a deeper level of souls than most people can on the planet, because you can breathe all the way. They say, don't forget your connection to the Earth star chakra, that it's you kind of as the Earth breathing all of them back home, and they just need to have clean bloodline, is how you show it. So as it moves through you, you're holding the genetics within you of the original bloodlines through you. So as it passes through, they have access so that they can move through the stargates, and you're not doing it alone. This is a really important thing that for you to hear, is you're not doing this alone. You are doing this with many, many other hosts and helpers. I asked specifically what guides you're working with. The initial guide that came through was Archangel Jophiel. You have ascended masters that you are working with, and there's actually a slew of other archangels, specifically Uriel and Jophiel came through, and also working with the Christ and Magdalene energies on the planet. So you are going to probably find connection with certain histories on the earth where these bloodlines, so the true bloodlines, had kind of a stronghold or places in history. So they're saying for you to just let yourself be drawn to whatever resonates for you. If all of a sudden you hear about a place on the planet and your heart lights up, it's a place that there is a significant energy with restoring the bloodlines there, the digressive races there, and lost soul fragments that have gotten trapped there, so that you can just breathe them through. They say very specifically it's better if you're there in person, but you can't go everywhere. So if you can do it in meditation or in your intentions, but you're not doing it alone. You have very high vibrational beings that are working with you. And so more specifically, that it needs to just move through you, and then you are handing them off. And that is all that you are doing. I asked what vibration that you are most predominantly holding in this lifetime, and it came through as reason. So if I was to interpret that for myself, it might be that the mind might come in a little too much to figure out what's going on, and that when I asked your soul what vibration it wanted you to just be at, it was love. So there's no need to figure out any of it. It's the timeline thing, especially with it kind of, there's things in our history where there is access to races for moving through timelines back and forth. And so it makes it almost impossible for us to try to really figure out how things work in that way. And that also within a lot of the energy that you are healing on Earth, so this kind of comes back, is that you came to really check on seeded bloodlines, but a lot of these energies that you're working with had specific ties to Atlantis. So Atlantean energy, and that you also, just to also let you know that you have connection to pretty much the entire solar system. So let yourself just kind of connect yourself to each of the other planets within the solar system. It's not just Earth, but Earth is kind of like the chakra. The Earth Star chakra is what came forward as the primary area that you're connected. And so that it's kind of like the heart center you hold to kind of restore all of it. And I asked, at what level are you currently in alignment with your soul origin? I feel that, honestly, if I ask this question again, now that you've heard all of this, it would probably be higher. It was at 70%, which is high. It is incredible. And I would say that if you were to ask again, it's probably much higher, because I feel an exchange of the information totally just, it's like, okay, all of this makes sense now. The final thing, as I was kind of asking, along with the guides and who you were working with, was if you were choosing to come back after this lifetime, back to physicality, back in a human body and back to Earth, and the answer was no, that you're actually going to choose to go to the Draco system. And this is pretty amazing because it's tied in with the ancient dragons. It's tied in with some of the most powerful birthing energy there. There's other nebulas and energy that is there that is just so beautiful, very high vibrational beings, because I asked what dimension you would be transcending into, and you were going to move into 7th dimension in the Draco constellation. So I would even invite you to tap in, because Draco shows up quite a bit on your chart, as well as a significant placement for you as beings that are guiding you, helping you. And before I go into kind of a little bit more, I just want to check in with you, because I know I've just shared a lot. Oh, I'll let you unmute there.
All of that resonates with me. I mean, as you were talking, it just rang true for me. All of that resonated with me. And a lot of those energies that you were talking about, I do work with already. So that was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's amazing. It's just such a beautiful thing.
And especially with the energy of Tara, you know, and I have dreamt and in meditation watched Tara explode, and have had conversations with beings about wanting to save more and collect more, and why can't we go back, and please go back, and having conversations on a ship, and them telling me we've done all we can. And so that was very tearful for me hearing that you talk about that, because I've watched that myself. But yeah, and as you know, I do clear many spirits, and they it's one thing that I've been blessed to do, intuitively, not knowing why, but intuitively, that they come to me and I get to move so many spirits. Everywhere I go, everywhere I travel, and I've been guided my whole life to move all over the place. I have moved so many different states and so many different houses, and just I have a hard time standing still. I'm just not supposed to be in one spot.
It's so amazing. It's just so amazing to get to feel how your life is just been directed to be exactly who you came to be. And that, you know, regardless of how it doesn't fit into what, you know, Earth humanity might think a lifetime should look like, where it's like, well, I need to move around. Nope, I just need to help these beings transition. And so I just thought that was actually really significant when it came through, that what was the primary karma that you were really choosing to work with, and it just popped through as sudden death. And I just went, okay, that's pretty intense one to take on. So it makes it so your life will have some challenges within it. And again, I just see it, and you'll see it in your chart. I'll send you, but it's just you've had significant squares within your life. So just to know that that is just something that when I intuit into it, something that you were willing to take on in order to be here for this lifetime, as difficult as it may have seemed. I feel as though you chose your human design perfectly as a manifesting generator, so that you could manage all of the things that you are doing, and allow yourself to be very diverse with what you are doing. And even with your 5-1 profile, I was just kind of feeling how that was really significant, because there's no judgment in your heart towards who someone is on the outside. There's an energy to you that's like, I see you from your heart. I see you as a human. I see you as a divine being. So regardless of, for instance, if someone's homeless, or if someone's, you know, maybe been a criminal or something like that, you would not see them as those titles. You just see them as the person that they are, and you'd be able to just relate to them just like that, with no judgment, which I think is super beautiful. And so with that, just the majority of the squares, if you will, that I saw within there had to do with Mars. So aggressive energy within your life, things that have tried to come and dominate you or overexert their energy over you. Also with the Uranus energy, that really, like, each time it's time for you to make a new decision and a choice within your life, that it's probably been from a traumatic thing that's happened, more so than from some just design in you that says, hey, I think I just need to be over here now. But that with an understanding of a lot of this, that you can just start to be from the heart now. That was the whole thing, that the more you resonate with love, the less these squares have to have an effect on you at all anymore within your life, that you trust your team that is helping you, that you're not doing it alone. And this will specifically heal your Chiron, which is kind of the wound that you came to heal, but also you had to heal it within yourself first, because your sun, so being who you are, being your true identity, letting yourself shine or stand out as who you are, not as a human, knowing that I'm in a human body right now, but there's a deep place in you that I would say knows that you're not a human. And so now it's that healing of that Chiron is to just shine. Let people see you. That the more you just follow and love, the less that the digressive energy is going to have an effect on you, because it's already basically, when I look at your chart, very complete, because most of the energy that would want to stop you or trick you, you already have an inner standing of them, kind of a feeling of them and knowing that.
Yeah. Yeah, then that's something in my this lifetime that I have dealt with. There's been a lot of energy that has physically, emotionally in my life has tried to stop me from a lot of things to do, and that I've overcome, in many things of my life.
And it's like you can spot them from 10 miles away now, can't you?
Yeah.
They're saying that's how they can't really get you, because it's like you see them coming. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I know your future. That innocence from your initial childhood isn't a hindrance anymore, but now you just get to go back into that innocence of love with maturity and seeing what's coming. So,
Yeah.
well, yay, I'm so grateful. Thank you so
This was beautiful. I so appreciate this.
I am so blown away, because it's like I get to learn so much by going on the journey where your soul takes me to learn everything. So thank you for letting me have this opportunity, and also for allowing this to be a gift for others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.